So Gabby Williams, you could argue, was the third best player in the entire Olympics. She was defensive player of the tournament, and you could also argue that she was, again, the best non-A'ja Wilson, Breanna Steward player. For me, it's between her and Emma Messaman, but they were the four best players. I think they gave Alana Smith the fifth All-Star spot, which I'm cool with. But for me, they were without question the four best players at the Olympics. But Emma Messaman's not in the WNBA basically because she wanted to focus on the Olympics. She's 33. She's won a finals MVP. But Gabby Williams is, a few weeks older than me, I think. Gabby Williams born, she's 20 days older than me. She's still relatively young, but has not been in the WNBA. So this is an article right here talking about why she wasn't in the league. And basically, Williams not actively on a roster, nor is the leading scorer Emma Messaman of Belgium or Williams' teammate Marine Johannes. I think Johannes will come back. Johannes wants to play for the Liberty, and the Liberty are literally tweeting about her, so she's almost certainly going to be coming back. All three have played WNBA minutes and opt to stay with their national teams. They didn't opt to stay with the national teams. If you played for the France national team, you weren't allowed in the WNBA. It's the only reason Lou Lopez-Seneschal is playing in the WNBA this year is that she didn't make the French team, whereas Leila Lacan did and Carla Lette made the provisional roster. But it says here, a large part is to do with a prioritization clause. So the prioritization clause is just, it's not great. It's potentially a huge problem. Even in 2022, they were talking about it like it was a huge problem. Rumblings of young stars skipping seasons and overseas clubs making it worth their while. But on Thursday, Breanna Steward were the first significant creator into the WNBA landscape while speaking to reporters about re-signing with Seattle Storm. That created superstar halfway into her career confirmed one-year deal was because of the clause. For me, the biggest thing is the one-year deal was in regards to prioritization. She said it's something that, if I'm quite honest, I'm not the happiest about in our CBA because it's just really limiting what professional women's basketball players can do in their off-season with their ability to make money overseas. With a one-year deal, I can have a little more flexibility technically in what I can do in 2023, as well as trying to figure this out. Obviously, she went and signed for the Liberty. But the prioritization rule basically means that if you miss training camp, you are not allowed to play. There are certain leagues where you're able to do that. Like, I'm pretty sure in the Turkish league, because we saw so many WNBA players who played for Fenerbahce playing in the WNBA season. But if you're not there for training camp and you're healthy, you can't play. You just can't play. And like Gabby Williams has been playing. She's playing for Fenerbahce this year, so I think she might be able to go back next year. I think maybe she'll be able to go back because of the Olympics situation as an unrestricted free agent, but you can't be named as part of a roster. It's because she's gone to Fenerbahce next year. You see, she's playing in France. And the French league ends in June, which means it's not only a problem for her, it's a problem for, in future, Malonga, Lacan, Lette, all of these players. And in some players like Lou Lopez-Seneschal showed up right before training camp. And I think because she was injured, she might have been allowed to play. But Gabby Williams, she was a champion at UConn, became the face of the clause during its initial implementation when players were fined for every day they missed. She played 5 seasons in the league and repeatedly says she plans to return. She's interested as path around the clause for her. European stars align. However, she's not going to sign for the Sky. However, this is why she's not on a team. She said in 2022 she was shying away from the W because teams aren't touching what I'm making in Europe. And that's true. Her base salary was $144K. She's probably on $500,000 at least. She's on $500,000 at least for Fenerbahce. And this is mad because this is a player who was born in America, who almost represented America in the high jump. And a lot of people were saying, if she had made the American team the high jump, I think it was 2012 maybe, for one of the Olympics, she wouldn't have been allowed to play France in the Olympics. No, she would have. You can change nationalities for the Olympics if you haven't represented them in 3 years. And also, FIBA rules are different. Once you represent a team in FIBA, you can't change unless FIBA approve it, which they won't approve that transfer. But it doesn't matter as long as you don't represent USA in any basketball, which she, you can see she didn't even when she was underage. And as you can see, like, she made way more than that overseas, and she's willing to forego it to make more money overseas where she has dual citizenship. Throughout most of the WNBA's existence, players have played overseas. They also used to improve work on parts of their game. Jesus, I'm struggling to read right now. Certain overseas clubs, like in Russia, was wild. Like, the way that Russia were paying, they were paying millions. But the problem is those longer seasons often played at the start of the WNBA season in early May, making headline players like Breanna Stewart, Brittany Griner arrive late. Nafisa Collier missed multiple regular season games for Minnesota in 21 while winning a French League championship. Going without star players lessened the product during the critical first week of the season. So that's basically what the rule was. So instead of, let's make the league start a week later, they said, let's try to effectively ban all-star level players. Like, the prioritization rule means that all-star level players won't play. And they're not paying enough to do that. Like, these leagues are not... The league is not currently paying enough to implement that rule. But also, when it comes to Gabby Williams, she was screwed in a worse way than the prioritization rule. She decided to play in the Olympics in 2021. And by the way, you do realize, like, Team USA players play in the Olympics. So... Chicago Sky were looking to win a championship, and they did. They were not 100% sure on what commitment Gabby Williams is going to have. So they basically just like, we don't want to give you a roster spot because we don't know whether or not you're going to be here. Gabby Williams assured she was. So they suspended her contract. You can put someone on the suspended list. Basically means, I'm pretty sure their contract, you can pay the contract, but they don't get a roster spot. I don't know what way it is. I think if you have them suspended, they don't take up a roster spot because you are not allowed to have 13 roster spots. You're still paying them there and you can bring them back at any time. But they then traded her to the Sparks. But because Chicago suspended her contract, she wasn't allowed to play for the Sparks. Like, she was not allowed to play. The Chicago Sky basically held her hostage. They used the rules to not allow her to play basketball for a year. They traded her, but they made sure as hell that she was not going to be playing for anybody, including them. Which is ironic because she would have made a big difference for them potentially winning a championship. But they went out of their way to make sure that Gabby Williams could not play basketball. Like, she got absolutely screwed by that rule. And she's come out and said she won't go back to play for the Sky. Obviously, former UConn player, grew up in America. Obviously, mother is French, so he's a dual citizen. But she's someone that you would love to go back to the WNBA. And it's good that more people are watching the Olympics so you could see just how good some of these players were, to see how ridiculous that prioritization rule is. I get it. It hurts the league if players don't come back in time or if players miss a week or two of the season. It does hurt the league. But what hurts the league more is some of the best players in the world not being allowed to play. What hurts the league is the entire French national team not being allowed to play in the WNBA because of rules. What hurts the league more is a top 5 player in the world in Emma Messaman not playing in the league because she's like, well, I make 10 times more money overseas. And, well, I would have to leave overseas early to come back and play in these leagues. I wouldn't be able to represent my country in the Olympics. It is one of the worst rules that a professional league has brought in. Maybe it's a justifiable rule if you're paying players enough money that they don't play overseas. But all it's done is dilute the basketball in the world. Yeah, obviously Americans are the best. The WNBA is the highest level of basketball in the world. But what's now happened is that there are top 15, top 20 players, all-star level players playing overseas and just not playing in the WNBA. There's going to be a stage. What's it going to take? Is it going to take the first WNBA player, American player, to say no? Would it have taken Breanna Steward to say no for a year? Would it have taken Taurasi to have taken the deal that Russia offered her where they were willing to pay, I think it was like 300 grand or something? I could be so wrong with that, but I think they offered double her WNBA salary to not play in the WNBA so that she could come back and not risk injury. Is it going to take one player taking one of those deals for that rule to be gone? But I do think the prioritization rule is going to go in the next CBA. I think there's no chance it stays because we've seen Satu complaining about it. We're seeing every international player, and they're like, especially because I'm going to make a video about it later, Kathy Engelbert talking about how they want more international players. And with the way the rules are currently, that can't happen. But yeah, the prioritization rule is a big reason why Gabby Williams isn't playing. And then obviously another big reason why she's not playing is she got screwed by the Sky. So that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.